Thank you guys for joining us for a little Zoom chat about handling anxiety during this unprecedented time. And I know I'm just going to share just a little tiny bit of my background. My name is Jean Crane. I'm a licensed mental health counselor at Care to Change here in Avon. And I've been working with anxiety and depression for probably my whole career, about 20 years in counseling. But I'll tell you one thing, I have never worked with anxiety and depression during a global pandemic before. So this is a first for me and for all of us. But what I know that there's a lot of information out there that we're all getting inundated with, from emails to the news, everywhere. So I thought maybe I would just take a few minutes today to synthesize some of the things that I've been thinking about as a therapist and things I've been talking to my clients about as we are all going through this, and come up with hopefully some creative ideas that might help out in the middle of all of this. Because, you know, the truth is we are all in this together. It's not just our county, it's not just our state, our nation, the globe. All of us are facing this. And so I hope that today we can come up with a few new ideas, and I would love to get feedback from you as well. So our plan is to put some of these ideas out there on our website and social media, and we'd love to have you guys respond back with creative thoughts and ideas that you're coming up with as well. So just a couple things when I was thinking about why has Corona rocked our world. I think that's probably a question that we all answer in different ways and similar ways, but I think one of the biggest reasons why we're all feeling this anxiety through Corona is just because of the unknown. We have never been through anything like this before. We don't know what causes it. We don't know what, there aren't vaccinations out there. There isn't a protocol for treatment. We don't know how long this is going to last. So anything that we don't really have the information about and know much about can really cause anxiety. So I think that's one of the reasons. The other thing is just at this time in our world, we have a 24/7 news cycle. So anytime you turn on the TV or you look on your internet, or you check your email or anything, we're constantly being inundated by news. And we all know that news loves drama. And also just pontificating about the what ifs and what if this happens, what if that happens, what happens physically, economically, in all of these different ways. So I think just the fact that there's so much news out there and we're always hearing about it, and that just constantly the input is just coming in, I think that's another reason why this has been tough. And then not lastly, but from my list, when I'm talking with my clients, one of the biggest things that being quarantined has done, it's taken away a lot of our healthy coping skills that we've been using. So, we all struggle with anxiety about different things, but some of the healthy ways that we handle it would be getting together with friends and being able to be in close proximity with people and getting a hug. That's just a relaxation thing when you're able to get that physical touch from somebody and that eye contact face to face. And, having a schedule and a routine that we can count on. So everything's changed about work, about kids and school and where we work and when we work and whether we work. So the routine, that predictable schedule to know what to expect, has changed. And then also having time. Time can be a real blessing, but also downtime can also be a time when our brains can just really think about what are all the potential things that might happen. And we'll probably talk about this a lot today, but what ifing. So anytime you start a sentence like what if, and you're thinking about something negative, it's kind of getting your brain starting to think about potential things that will cause anxiety for you. So I think the downtime, that's a real blessing, because some of us are so busy, can also be detrimental because our brains tend to go in that direction when we have an unknown like this pandemic. And even just regular old things like getting together at the park and kids running around playing tag and laughing together. All of these things have been taken during this quarantine time. It's good decisions that our governor is making to help us to make sure that we can flatten the curve and all of that, but those are many of those healthy coping skills that we've been using that now we can't anymore. So I think these are some reasons why it's been especially tough. So I made a list of things I think are good things to be doing in these next few weeks. We don't know how long. And then a list of things that I think we should try to avoid or at least do in moderation. So I'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing I wrote down is I think we should be getting outside and exercising. It's a definite do. I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you know, there are so many benefits to exercise, from the relaxation that it produces, the endorphins, so that the chemicals in our brain helping us feel better. Getting outside is wonderful. You're getting that vitamin D, you're getting that fresh air and that oxygen. If it hopefully warms up a little bit in April, maybe we'll be able to actually get outside instead of hoping it doesn't snow. But April and May are usually really good times of the year to be able to get out and get exercise. So I think that's a definite do. It's something that we're still technically able to do. So please get out and get exercise, whether it's walking, taking a jog, going for a bike ride. I have clients who are learning to skateboard and ripstick and all kinds of new hobbies that include exercise. So any way that we can do that, I think is important. And then on the other side of that, what I think is important not to do is to spend too much time on the couch. And I know it's really easy to get sucked into this, binge watching Netflix, everyone's talking about it, and spending a ton of time gaming and a ton of time on social media. And it's not like we're not, you shouldn't do that ever. But just being careful that you're doing that in moderation, because it really doesn't help emotionally, it doesn't help physically. You're not getting your body moving when you're spending time on the couch. And sometimes it can just start this sabotaging cycle where, you don't do anything, then you kind of feel unproductive, you feel worse, so you feel like you have less energy, so you don't do anything, and just around the cycle it goes. So it's important to make sure that those kind of things you're doing in moderation. The next do is finding ways to connect with other people in creative ways. So we know that with social distancing, it's really hard to have that face-to-face contact that we're used to having just in our daily lives, whether at work or wherever we are. But I wanted to share with you a list of a couple of creative ways that some of my clients and other friends have come up with to connect. Some of them, my kids would call them cringy, but they're just kind of fun. So I know for April birthdays, a lot of people are having these honk and wave parades. And it feels really funny when you're in it. I know for our family, we have 4 kids, and so we made a permanent poster board sign that we keep in our van that says happy birthday, and it doesn't say anyone's name, so that we're always ready for being part of one of these parades. But it's still fun to drive past someone's house, to honk, to wave, to throw a paper airplane card out at them, and just to let them know that they're still cared for. So I think that's pretty cute for kids. One of my clients told me yesterday, I love this idea, that she and her long distance boyfriend, they are finding recipes that they're trying to do online together. So he's at his house and she's at her house, but they're both making the same thing. And they're like cooking it together and watching it, finishing the product together and then eating it and seeing which one turns out better. And I told that to someone else, and she said, I think that's a really good way for me to connect with my mom long distance, because she wants to make sure I'm doing okay. And it's just something fun, and we're both learning a new recipe in the process. So there's another idea. People are playing a lot of games online. You can download apps like Risk, and you feel like you're able to have fun and laugh and play together, even though you're in a long distance. And laughing is such an important part of feeling good. And then I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm becoming a Zoomaholic, and that's just using Zoom to connect in all kinds of different ways. So I know I have some friends that I work out with on Mondays and Fridays, so we're doing that through Zoom now. So we're each at our different houses, but we're still working out and able to talk and connect together that way. Some people are going on runs or walks with somebody that they see on Zoom. There's book clubs that are starting. There's Bible studies that are starting. There's prayer groups. There's all kinds of different ways to use Zoom, almost like the person's next to you. So I definitely want to encourage you to keep connecting, even though it feels really hard to figure out how to do it. Be creative. And like I said before, please add to our list of creative ways, because we want to be able to share these with other people. So then on the other side, on the don't side, It's really important not to isolate yourself. We were not made to be alone, and being alone can feed depression and anxiety. It just gives your brain that chance to get caught up in negativity without having feedback from somebody else who can be an encouragement and support. So sometimes you have to act on what you know to be true and not on what you feel. So maybe in the middle of this, you just don't feel like you have the energy to reach out. But in this case, I encourage you that even if you don't feel like it, do it. And after you're done, I really believe that you will be feeling better, even if it's connecting through things like Zoom and these other means that we've been talking about. Next on the to-do list, because we know that time is the commodity that we do have, I think it's a great time for you to take inventory of any hobby that you have always wanted to learn. So maybe it's gardening, maybe it's learning a new instrument, cooking, photography, calligraphy, sewing. My clients are telling me all kinds of different things that they're learning. And what feels so good about that is that they're putting their time to something productive. And so at the end of the day, when they put their head on the pillow, it's not just another wasted day of monotony that feels the same, but instead, you know, they've maybe taken a step forward in one of the goals that they have. So think that through. My family, we decided to start a garden. I've always wanted to, but spring always seems really busy, and it's hard to figure out like how to get it all done. So that's something that we are working on. We're still tilling the ground right now, and it's freezing, so I think we have a little more time, but I'm just excited about trying that new hobby. And again, it gives you something to put your time to and your energy to, and it feels productive. So on one hand, please find hobbies that you can try and to do. And on the other hand, please don't make your only hobby news consumption, because that really can feed anxiety. And it is hard. It's hard not to look and see what the latest things are. And I'm not saying don't look at all. I'm saying find the source that you trust. Maybe it's the CDC or the NIH, but finding that one place and check it periodically, but don't check it all the time. Because the more you're putting that input into your brain, the more what ifing can start happening, and the more anxious your body will feel when your mind is thinking about the potential negative things that can happen. Okay, so back to the do's. And this really does have to do with some cognitive things that you can do. So think strong. And what I mean by that is being proactive with your thoughts. So really, you know, we talk a lot about gratitude and thankfulness. So what are those things that are good in your life? What are those things that you can be thankful for? What are the lessons that you're learning in the middle of this? I know there are some families who are making a big poster board that says blessed, and they're trying to come up with like 100 ways why this has been a blessing for them. So the more that you get your mind going in that direction, the more that you can stave off those anxious thoughts. Maybe it's through journaling, maybe it's through, for, you know, people who are busy and working from home, you keep a piece of paper out, and, you know, when you go to get a water break or you go to get a cup of coffee, that you go and you just write down one thing you're thankful for, one thing that you're blessed with. So you're just keeping that positive mentality going. And on the other side, don't let your negative thoughts win. So we know we are going to have anxious thoughts. They will come. You can't help that first thought. And you don't want to just stuff it all down either. So what I'm saying is don't let that win. So you have that thought, but how can you move past that and not dwell on it and not let it take up the whole rest of your day? So a couple of suggestions I have. One is something that I've been giving an assignment to people for many years with just anxiety in general, is that if you're really feeling anxious or upset about something, that you carve out time in your day, every day, for like 15 minutes a day, and you take your journal out and you write out those anxious feelings so you know that you're getting them out. And then after you're done with that, you either rip that piece of paper to shreds or you burn it. Or yesterday, one of my clients was telling me that she got a typewriter, and she said, Jean, you have no idea what it feels like to type, because the typing feels like pounding. So it feels really good to just like type it all out. And then she does the same thing. She just gets rid of it, because you don't really need to hang on to journal page after journal page of things that you're anxious about. So get rid of it. You know, send those ashes up to God, rip it up. Sometimes that feels really good physically, just to rip it up, but you're getting it out. But then as soon as that 15 minutes is up, you close close that page, rip that page out of the typewriter and be done with it, and then move back into some of these do's that we're talking about, of staying busy, of exercising, of thinking about things you're grateful for. Because if you let yourself dwell on those thoughts about what if and the things that could happen and the potential, your body is going to react as if you're really living in that. So it's going to push out the adrenaline, that cortisol, your heart beats faster, you feel, scared, your stomach can feel nauseous, all of those physical symptoms of anxiety, even though you're probably not even in the middle of facing those what ifs. Maybe you're thinking about it, but you're not living it. And if you are living it, we'll talk about that at the end too. Please get in touch with professionals to get help. But for those of us who are kind of living in the pandemic and we're thinking about the what ifs but not actually experiencing that, you just want to, your body's going to get tired, your brain is going to get tired. So finding ways to think differently and be proactive with your thoughts is really, really important during this time. Next thing, I think some really good things to do for relaxation and to take good care of your body are yoga, mindfulness, deep breathing, focusing on the present. So we have a colleague here at Care to Change who teaches yoga, and she's done it for those of us who work here. And it's really a blessing, and it's really a great way to make sure that you're staying in the present. So, you can think about all the stuff from the past, the negative things or any things that you were worried about or concerned about during the day, or you can think about all the what ifs and the potential negative things. But if you're practicing mindfulness and deep breathing and some of the great techniques in yoga, it helps you stay in the present. You can really experience the good things. So even just the sensory experience of lighting a great candle. I think it's kind of an interesting idea to make your own little yoga studio at home, since you can't really go to a yoga studio right now. So maybe you can light a candle, you can put up some Christmas lights, you can put on the right kind of music. Hopefully you have somewhere where you can go. If you have a lot of kids like me, it might be your walk-in closet or something, but finding that place that you can get the sensory experience and do that breathing and help your body to be in touch with your body and to relax. So on the one hand, to do those things is really important, and to not do is to focus on all of these other things, the negatives about the past or the future, but really trying to be present. And when you are present, I think you'll experience peace and calm that you can't when you're thinking about those other things. Next to do, this is a hard one. Everybody's talking about the quarantine 15, because when we're bored and when we're stressed, sometimes it's easy to eat without thinking about it, kind of like we call it emotional eating. So to do is to choose to eat healthy. This is a really great time when you can be intentional and mindful about what you're eating and trying new recipes and finding new healthy alternatives to things. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to make, for us, I've always wanted to learn how to make cauliflower pizza crust. So we finally have time to do that, to grind up the cauliflower and do everything that it takes. So that's one thing that I've learned. And I think it's important to be mindful. So enjoy your food. That's a good thing. It's a beautiful pleasure that we get to experience as humans, to taste good food, but just be mindful about it. And just be aware that during times of boredom or stress, it's easy to emotionally eat, to not think about what you're putting in your mouth, and even drinking to kind of escape, to just feel better for a minute. But we want to find those healthy alternatives to dealing with emotions so that it doesn't turn into a problem. So on the to-do side, to choose to eat healthy, and the not to do is just mindlessly eating or emotionally eating as a way to cope with an emotion, but finding new ways to do that. Again, another to do, I found that my clients who are doing the best through this whole pandemic are the ones who are focusing outward. So I have this teenager, I'm so proud of her. She's 15, and she said, what can I do? She has the gift of encouragement. She likes to encourage other people. So she made notes that she passed around her neighborhood to all of her neighbors, to people that she knew well, and then people that she didn't even know well, just like thinking of you, we care about you, if there's anything that we can do, because she's 15. I think she's feeling a little bit less stressed about things like picking up toilet paper for people or getting groceries, but she's looking at how can I give back and help out with people who might need it. And that really helps her to keep that external focus instead of an internal focus. So that was a great idea. I know that at my church, there's something called a serve team that you can join. So when people text in that they need something, you could be somebody who also goes and picks up things for them or helps out in ways. And, I think we've all experienced it. When we give, we receive. When we help other people, we feel better. So any way that you can do that. And even if right now it's just, going along the side of your road with your family, taking some garbage bags and picking up trash, it still feels really good to do that because it looks a lot better after you leave that area. So looking outward is another really important thing that I think can help in the middle of this. And to not do is to be overly focused on your internal stuff that's going on. I think we've all experienced this. I know I have, that you have like a little something in your throat, or it's hard to breathe for a second. And how can you not think like, is this a symptom of corona? And so if you're overly focused or hyper vigilant on that, it can just kind of make you feel paranoid and just keep that thinking process going. And I'm not saying don't pay attention. If you feel like you're having those symptoms, for sure, please go get it checked out. But the more that we're focused externally, I think the easier it is to not be overly focused on those things that are going on internally. And again, a way to stave off some of the anxiety. One thing that we just recently learned, or like I just recently learned this, is that singing and belting out music is also another really good way to feel better. And so, so listening to music, keeping that on, and don't be afraid to sing loud or sing in the shower, but get that out because it's another good protective factor for you to feel good. I'm almost done. So a couple more things real quick. One is setting up a schedule. I found this with a lot of my clients that because everything's thrown off with routine, it can feel really chaotic, and then the day just passes and you get to the end of the day like, what did I accomplish? And it just feels really unproductive and it feels frustrating. And so even if they set up a non-rigid schedule, so hear me out here, I think it's great that we have the opportunity to rest and sleep. And for those of us who've been so busy and have, crazy lives, this is a really great time to let some of those natural sleep rhythms happen. So if you don't have to get up at 6 o'clock to get your kids to school by 7, to get to work by all of the different things, then I don't think it's bad at all to let your body sleep in to when it can naturally wake up. But when you do wake up, to figure out what are some things that you can do that you can put into your routine and know what to expect so that you feel good about the day. And when you lay your head on the pillow at night, you can say, yeah, I'm really excited because I accomplished a few things. I worked out today. I connected with these people. I did these things. So don't be rigid or guilt tripping yourself about it, but setting up some sort of routine so that you don't just end up doing what you feel like doing. And sometimes doing what you feel like doing is nothing. And then when you do nothing, you feel worse at the end of the day and doesn't really help you with dealing with depression and anxiety. And I think too, it's sometimes easy to get into a totally off-kilter sleep routine. I know, especially for students in high school, to not go to bed until 3 or 4 or 5 a.m., but that can get things really thrown off. So I encourage you to at least try to get in bed while it's still that same day. So sometime before midnight. And then again, letting yourself sleep is really important. The last thing that I want to say is that I think for me in my life, because my faith is important to me, connecting to God has been a really important part of my well-being during this time. We have a God who loves us. He sees and he knows what's happening and he's with us and he promises to never leave us. And for me, just knowing that he cares and he's with me has been a really important component to well-being. And I encourage you, and if there's anything that I can leave you with, my heart just wants you to know you are dearly loved by God. He cares about you and he's with you. So I know we cannot control the circumstances that we're in, but we can be proactive about the choices that we're making in the middle of these. We can choose our attitude. We can choose what we will dwell on in our thinking. We can choose what we're going to spend time doing. And I do hope that some of these ideas might be able to help you during this time to make the best of it and to come out in a better place. So thanks again for listening. Any questions?